All right, it looks like we're live. So we'll just take a moment at this time to share to our social media platforms. Champion parents, we're going to allow you to tune in and please share this video. We have some great information for you to share with your families and friends. Right, it looks like we're live. Uh-oh, guess I need to turn that down.
Okay. Champion parents, welcome back to Mommy Talk. Come on in and share. Please take a moment to share with your family and friends on your social media platforms. We also invite you to engage with us this evening and chime in to chat with us. Feel free to leave a question or a comment or a shout out. As always, we are here to share information and resources to inspire positive parental engagement. We are real, relatable, and right on time with myself, Dr. Pert, and Miss Lisa, and Miss April, who is not here with us today. And we also have a special guest, a champion father, a champion husband, Mr. Karl D. chatting with us on the importance of mental health checks. Mr. D. is a certified mental health specialist. Parents, did you know that temper tantrums aren't always a bad thing? If you listen to your child long enough, you can turn that negative into a positive. If you listen long enough, you will be able to respond in a way where you can allow the weakness to feed the strength. So the next time your child is behaving in a questionable manner, take a deep breath. Sit back and see what you can learn from their behavior to be able to come up with a solution to problem solve. Remember, all actions are a form of communication. Welcome, Mr. Karl D. How are you?
All is well. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on our platform. I'm sure that our parents out there are going to take a lot of information back that they can be able to apply to their situation.
Good.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. Mental health is a very needed topic today, and I think that it's something that will be interesting and important to everyone. So we can just get right on into the get with who is Karl D. I'm sorry.
Well, as you've already stated, father, husband, community advocate. I work with youth and families on a daily basis. And that's, I guess, the long and short of it, because in saying all that, that encompasses a lot of things where mental health is something that's at the forefront of all of those categories, you know. So a lot of what I will share tonight is not only evidence-based, but it's also from my experiences. So I try to take those and as lessons learned and then pass those on to other individuals and other people so that they can learn as well.
Okay, so speaking of your experiences, can you tell us a little bit about your background with mental health?
Well, with mental health, again, those are certifications that I've been able to achieve and attain after my formal education. The certifications that I have in mental health first aid encompass veterans mental health, youth mental health, adult mental health, mental health for first responders, and mental health for the faith-based community. So those are the areas of mental health that I'm certified in and am qualified to instruct. I actually give free workshops to the community on those topics. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't take advantage of these things. And in these trainings, there are a lot of suggestions and helpful hints that an individual can potentially take away and use them and put them in their little toolbox of resources. Another certification that I'm blessed with is I'm a suicide prevention gatekeeper, and I'm certified to instruct that as well. So again, another workshop or group.
Uh-oh, it's freezing up. I think it's important that he's talking about the different areas of mental health. And he brought up some really good points, especially because there are some positive aspects to mental health. I know growing up, all I could think about as far as mental health is concerned, that it was for crazy people, but mental health is actually, it's positive. It can be some positive attributes to it, also some negative. It's not always with people who are going through issues. It could be, as you were saying, I know we were talking earlier offline, Dr. Pert, but as you said, you got the wellness checks. Mental health care is what it is. Just like we go to the doctor sometimes, not just because we sick, but to do a maintenance on our bodies. So mental health care, sometimes you just need to go and make sure that your thought process is you got a good flow to the way that you're thinking, on a daily basis. And right now with this pandemic, mental health, hopefully Mr. Karl will be back very soon, having technical difficulties over here. But with the pandemic going on, we definitely want to make sure that we are keeping our mental health in check. Definitely want to make sure that we keep. Yeah,
I agree. And I do think that mental health right now is a topic that is most definitely important. But I think a lot of times you hear mental health like it's just become like a buzzword that you often hear. And so I think it's important for people to know what the term actually really means. So when we talk about mental health, it basically includes our emotional, our psychological, and social well-being. Like how we think and how we feel, because though that determines how we act in situations and how we react and respond to certain things that come our way. So today, when we're talking about mental health, we're just talking about, the emotional, the psychological, and the social well-being. I think that's very important to put the term into perspective.
Yes. Yep. And so thank you for the giving the definition of what it is. What is mental health? It's very important for us to understand what it is. And then you have why, why is it so important, or why do people feel the need to seek mental health care or mental health counseling? And a lot of times it's due to some type of traumatic experience, and I can't help but to keep bringing up COVID-19 and the pandemic. That is definitely traumatic. I think this is not an issue where one person has experienced something. Like 2020 alone has just been I said it was a doozy of a year. Because if it's me today, it was you yesterday, it was our family members last week who have experienced either losing a loved one or them themselves had it. I think you and I both feel like it's possible that we could have had it, but we really don't know, because we were at one point feeling or experiencing some illnesses. So again, mental health, the why. The why of why we need to get checked or seek counseling.
Right. I think it's important for people to have mental health checkups, because it allows for like early identification and interventions that, that may possibly bridge a gap to a certain problem that, you know, somebody is having. And I think that's very important what you said. You know, COVID-19, we're all experiencing, you know, a lot of challenges. You know, I would be remiss if I sat up here and said, you know, hey, I'm doing well, you know, although things are going well in my life. However, you know, being that I witnessed and have been a part of COVID-19, yes, there have been some mental issues that I had to deal with even prior before COVID-19. So I think it is important to have those mental health checks. And I think it's important to have those mental health checks with your children as well. Like I would call my children down often and we'd sit down at the table. I'd be like, kids, come down. It's time to come on down. When they'd be like, oh, we're about to have our talk. And I say, yes. And I mentioned this on a show, a strategy that parents can actually use. It's called the PIE strategy, where they ask their children, how are they feeling physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And so what I do is I normally just, you know, I have my children sit around the table and everybody speaks one at a time. And during that time, it's allowing the child to be able to release their emotions and speak. And when you have these mental health checks with your children, you're not judging them, and you don't have to have a solution right then and there. It's really just listening to what your child is communicating, because you know, right then and there, we may not have a specific solution to what our child is saying, but it's actually creating a safe space so that your child can be able to advocate for themselves and voice any concerns that they have, and to be able to release any emotions that they may be experiencing at that time. So having those mental health checks are very important.
Yep. And I want to go back to the fun fact. I thought it was kind of funny just listening to, you know, temper tantrums. Champion parents, let me just say this, and I really want y'all to hear me. Temper tantrums are not, and I'm saying it for myself, temper tantrums are not always a bad thing. Because I'm gonna tell you, I gotta say it again, because I'm ready to knock my kids out for throwing a temper tantrum somewhere. But they're not always a bad thing, because sometimes, you know, if you just kind of listen long enough, you'll understand how you can redirect that behavior and turn it into something positive. So, hey, Mr. Karl is back. We were trying to hold it down for you a little bit till you came back.
Well, you know, it's funny when you talk about mental health, and with that, there are other things that come about, like stress, so on and so forth. And, you know, this whole technology has put a lot of stress and caused a lot of mental health issues for different people. And, you know, when you talk about mental health, there are different ways you can work with those challenges to bring calm. You know, there are certain applications on the phone that such as different Bible verses you can read. There's certain counseling strategies and techniques. There are a lot of different things. But, you know, the first thing that came to my mind when I was disconnected was, you know, technology will fail you, man will fail you. The only thing that won't fail you is God. And so I started praying, and again, I'm not a biblical scholar, I'm not a minister, pastor, anything like that, but I've learned through my experiences that you have different things that'll get you through different situations. And I firmly believe that having a faith-based component is important to any strategy that you have in your toolbox.
Yes. And I just want to add to that, growing up, I always say it's in the Black community, but it may or may not be true. But from my experience in the Black community, it's always, when you're going through things, you better pray it out of you, honey. Let the Holy Ghost take, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's good. I mean, it is good to pray, because praying exhibits you having faith, and it gives you the confidence to, try to go on about your day and conquer those issues or problems that you have. But mental, like, it's nothing wrong with seeking professional help, whether it's for care or if it's for a traumatic experience.
Mhm. Absolutely. And if I may add, because you were speaking on that, and I don't want to get away from whatever questions you want to ask me, but
No, take it wherever you want to take it.
I'm just going to say this. I have, in this, and many people have said it. We can take 2020 and throw that back out the window.
Yeah.
But in 2020, I've had some very serious health challenges, and again, I have been blessed to have some of the best doctors, and uh, in me getting through everything, it was ultimately, in my opinion, the faith that I had that really pulled me through it, because there were some times where my mental health was challenged, and regardless of how many uh, degrees I might have, regardless of how many certifications I might have, uh, I got on my knees, and that's what got me through it. Um, and I'll share. I actually had COVID-19 twice. I had a stroke, and and after all that, I had to learn how to rewalk. So since April of this year, I've been learning how to rewalk and how to do a lot of things. And in my opinion, again, it's only by the grace of God that I'm here talking to you and sharing with you, because I've had quite a few friends whose pictures were lying on Belle Isle
Yes.
that have passed from COVID-19. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I'm still here. So clearly there's a reason for that. And being here tonight is part of that reason, so that I can, share these experiences and offer some sort of good counsel, good advice from my experience, uh, and from my, evidence-based training to everyone who may be listening tonight.
Yeah, and I like the way how you put that when you said people can have mental health challenges, and I like the way how you even provided an example from your own experience, because I feel like personally, I feel like I grew up a little bit more during this time, because I feel like every day, we learn more about ourselves, and during this time, people have a lot of idle time, which
Yep.
allows them to be able to think more and reflect more during this time. And I just kind of feel like it's possible that an individual can focus on negative thoughts as well as positive thoughts. But since we're talking about mental health, I just want to delve a little bit more on the aspects of some thoughts that can take people into a dark space and can manifest into questions like, is life worth living for? They begin to question their self-worth, past decisions and past actions. And I just really want to tell people out there that, tomorrow is a new day. And I just feel like, don't look for others for self-validation or even self-pity. I think it's important to regroup and redirect your thinking, as Miss Lisa was saying. It's very important that, we as individuals regroup and redirect our thinking, because only you are in control of your life, and you have a choice. And sometimes I think we stay in the situation when we really don't have to.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. And if I may, I want to just add two things to that. One deals with myself. You talked about idle time and being able to reflect and do some of those things. And I can tell you that the third time that I was in the hospital, uh, I had to reflect on, well, I reflected on everything that was going on with the sicknesses, but uh, I was really wanting to get home. Uh, the when you have COVID, you're on a floor, you're by yourself, you can't have any visitors. People come in looking like hazmat employees and whatnot and everything else, And so it kind of played on my mental capacity, and that's why I say, even though with all of the trainings and all of the degrees and everything, none of that mattered. It was out the window. And so I had to redirect, recalibrate myself to say, hey, you know what? You can do this. You can do anything that you want. You have to put your mind to it. So having a stable mental health atmosphere, mindset, thought pattern, and critically think and just rationalize with things, and those are all important, because again, sometimes you're in a situation where it may seem like, you know, is life worth living? And those things that you mentioned. Lastly, I'm going to say that uh, I was really tested, and it happened right after I finished my suicide prevention instructor training. Uh, and again, I had two individuals who were contemplating suicide. And one of the individuals, they had trusted me enough to call me. And so I said, well, that's the first positive thing. If they were thinking about, doing something negative, at least they called, which basically shows that, they're reaching out, they're asking for help without asking for it. I actually stayed on the phone with that individual for 11 hours and ultimately talked her down from that situation. So after it was all said and done, I was very tired, but the outcome was a blessing. So again, it's very important to try to have the best mental attitude that you can. And sometimes you can self-check, but sometimes you can't. And if you can't, it's always good to just, if you have a good friend, talk to your friend. You can always talk to your pastor, your minister. You can always talk to somebody. So if it's me, it's me. If it's not, just talk to someone, because that's what can help you out.
And those are some great points as far as doing a self check. But as a parent, how do you think a parent, or how would a parent conduct? Well, I guess Dr. Purd did kind of cover that earlier with the what is it called? PIES? Is it PIES? The PIES strategy?
The PIES strategy.
Okay, yeah, so, right. So, well, in addition to that, let me. So, if a parent notices something is wrong with their child, what do you think is the first thing they should do? Because sometimes, like I think that when people go through like health challenges, they become very defensive, and they could probably, in some cases, maybe be a little aggressive. Really emotional. So how do you think a parent should address when they know something is wrong, but they're kind of hesitant about the reaction?
Good question. I think that there is no one answer to that. It's going to be depending on the different signs that child is emitting. So, for example, in the course, well, any of the courses, the suicide prevention course or the adult or youth mental health first aid, there are a plethora of signs that could, signal that parent to ask those questions. Some of the things that I like to recommend is, number one, if you feel that the student will not communicate with you truthfully or whatever, make sure you know who your child or your student's friends are, because potentially you can, talk to one of those students and say, hey, so and so has been acting a little different lately. Have you noticed that too? And kind of ask some probing questions like that. Now, when it comes to things like, say, suicide, and I'm just going to be flat out with you, the most effective way is to be direct and to ask that student, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about, killing yourself? To be just straight out with it, and based on how that student responds, take the appropriate actions as far as looking for the appropriate resources to get that student some help. So that's what I would, recommend first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think that parents out there that, when you look for signs when you're conducting your mental health check, I think that you should pay attention to changes in behavior and mood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like we said earlier, every form of behavior, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's, is a form of communication. And, people tell you how they feel, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, or even silence, I think just sometimes we have to read between the lines. So thank you, champion parents out there, for listening. We have a question from one of our listeners, and somebody said that Karl is the man. They just gave you a shout out.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. McGee.
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time finding a question, but it was actually from Prevention Man, and he basically want to know, well, how come mental health is not treated in the same way as physical health should be?
With the same significance. How come it isn't as important as your physical health checkups? Or
Well, I think that it's mainly because it's not stressed, especially in our community. I think that we as a community have different challenges and different stresses and different things of that sort. If I may, I was just speaking with one of my lodge brothers, who is the spokesperson for the AHA, the American Heart Association, and we were talking about mental health and stress and things of that nature. And he told me that through his evidence-based research, that African American women are the most or the largest number of individuals that that die from heart disease, and a lot of that is caused by being overweight. A lot of it is by diabetes and other things that are really due to stress and mental health not being where it should be. So that's another reason it's very important to make sure that our mental health is well taken care of.
I want to add to that with the stress and the heart. I said not too long ago how I had to change the way I approached my children when they did something that they weren't supposed to do, because, I'm like a cat woman, I'm ready to go off like real quick. But one day I remember listening to I remember listening to my daughter. She was like, you gonna give your own self a heart attack. And or you gonna stress, no, she said you're gonna stress your own self out or something like that. And I remember after that, I remember fussing, and I just was giving it so much energy. When I tell you I had to sit down, I was just that hype. I had to sit down because my chest felt funny. I was very short of breath. And I believe that. Like, I really think we have to try to be a little more gangster in how we respond to our children. Like, we don't always have to, be wild or loud, or, I think you're just as effective. Matter of fact, sometimes the calmer you are, the more they're afraid. If you're a little bit calmer. So yes, I definitely agree with that. Like, we really have to learn how to calm down, not just with dealing with our children, but period in life. Just sometimes just being so hyped like that stress will kill you. I really believe it'll kill you.
Yeah. And well, the other thing is that sometimes that stress causes us to make quick decisions. And those quick decisions sometimes lead to additional things that could potentially not be good for us health-wise, whether it be physical, mental, or any of those things, So again, since I've had some health challenges that could have been prevented, I actually use any and all platforms that I have to talk about it and to try to warn people, young, middle-aged, older, seasoned folks like like myself. And if they'll listen to some decent counsel, I am more than happy and willing to give it. So, as an example, if I may, real quickly, I'm not only in my everyday work life, but also in my social life, I've been blessed with opportunities. I'll start with my social life first. I am serving currently as a special deputy grand master for Prince Hall Masons of Michigan. And I have a Facebook page that deals with health and healthcare. And so what I do there is I put healthy recipes out there so that, they're not too expensive. Individuals can, try some of those. Some deal with poultry, some are with beef, and also fish. So you can pick your poison and take a look at some of those recipes. And what I will do is only because I don't have it. Actually, it's Prince Hall Healthcare, Prince Hall Healthcare of Michigan, and so that's our Facebook page. And so you can, if you're interested in different recipes and whatnot, some of those are out there for healthy eating and whatnot. Also, at the job, my everyday workplace, we deal with substance use disorders and other things like that. So the program that I manage now is called LSS, which stands for Life Support Services. And through that, we offer different case management opportunities so that if you want to come in and we assess you, we can give you pointers on how you can improve and do things like that, as well as healthcare pointers and just in general. Finally, I mentioned earlier that I offer free workshops to the community, and so through my own personal nonprofit, which is the Diabru Foundation, it allows us, funding is donated, resources are donated. So it's an incentive-based program. So if you take part in the program, you're eligible for certain resources. Those resources include, and this is more for individuals who are, I'd say, 10 to 24. The Detroit Pistons is one of our partners, so they believe in the things that we're doing as it relates to health and all those types of things. So they donate at least 50 tickets per game to their different, for those opportunities. And those tickets that we have are actually almost on the floor. So again, that's another opportunity once we get past this little COVID thing and they're having games on a consistent basis, we'll be doing some of that, as well as, we offer gift cards and different things like that. So,
let us know if you need chaperones.
You know what? I get more offers for chaperones than I do kids. Wonderful. I
can get you some kids. I can get kids.
Mm-hmm.
You need
Okay, well,
kids, I can get some kids.
you get kids, and you get a chaperone offer.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Done.
Oh,
you for
and
sharing that information. One of our listeners has a question. They want to know, could you explain how protective factors such as family support, mentoring, could help young Black males overcome issues related to poor mental health?
well, that's a very good question, and it just so happens that again with that question, what I didn't mention is that I am the director of the Cradle to College Mentoring Program for Prince Hall Masons of Michigan, and it encompasses actually the 33rd degree Masons of Michigan. And as a part of that group, there are doctors, there are lawyers, there are many resources. And to answer the question, um, it's important because, again, we serve as mentors, we serve as sounding boards, we serve as someone who can talk them through something that they may not know, may not have experienced, and again, offer some guidance uh, for those individuals, especially those that are in our community, because again, sometimes individuals, as a matter of fact, I had one group of individuals as a resource who they were not Black, and I'm just gonna put it out there, they didn't look like us. And even though they might have had the experience and the knowledge, they told me that they were scared to come to the neighborhood because they didn't know if they'd be beat up, shot, or somebody would steal the wheels off their car. So those other uh, uh, the stigma that comes with our community and our young Black men, plays a big role in it too. So I found myself, as it relates to mental health, talking to some of those adult people who are degreed but don't necessarily look like us to kind of change the framework so that again we can bring more resources in here to assist our young people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
agree.
yeah, that's an interesting point. I was looking at getting therapy for my own children, and just as a mental health, mental checkup. And it's funny because one of the therapists who was available for my daughter, like I wanted to make sure that it was someone that I felt my daughter could relate to. And
Mhm.
at first, I didn't know if that was being shallow, because I wanted her to be able to relate to her, like in totality, like from appearance to I'm sorry, to ethnicity to like
Mhm.
everything. I just wanted her to be able to relate because I just didn't want any, and that's not always a conclusive answer, but that was like my comfort, at that time.
Well,
So
And I
yeah.
think to help answer that question as well, too, I think it's important that families provide support to somebody who is actually having that mental challenge and not just ignore it and think that it will go away. And I think that it's important to use the resources that are in your neighborhood. And if you feel like those resources won't help the situation, I feel like we have access to a lot of information that we can Google some type of resource out there to help whatever the situation may be, the mental health challenge that somebody may be facing in the house. So I think that it's very important that if somebody is having an issue, that you be that support that they need. And so that does lead me to the next question. Should counseling be the first option for a parent who is struggling mentally, or if they have a child that is struggling mentally, should counseling be the first solution? Because it could be that somebody is just having a hard time. Like sometimes can we make more of a situation than what it is?
I personally would agree with that assessment. But what I would also like to do is add to what you've said. Um, sometimes, sometimes individuals are hesitant to seek help. And I think no matter what the situation is, you need to seek and ask for help in some sort of way. You mentioned Google, and as a fellow doctor, what I would add to that is Google is full of information. However, um, I would what I found myself doing now versus using Google, I'll use Google Scholar, because in Google Scholar, the things that are there are all evidence-based, and uh, I found to be more accurate in a lot of cases. So again, in addition to Google, I would suggest using Google Scholar to find some of those answers. And I think as it relates to the question regarding counseling, I want to take the professional definition off of counseling and say that counseling could come from a good friend. Counseling could come from a pastor. Counseling could come from your community police officer, you know. So I would say any of those would qualify for some good counsel. But again, you have to, in my opinion, ask the question. You gotta ask the question.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said, that counseling can come from anybody pretty much, because have you ever noticed, like, you can say something to somebody, for example, a child, but then, you know, they don't hear it from you, but then somebody else can say the same thing, and then it just clicks in their head. And it's just like, you know, like Miss Lisa said, it always takes that village. And so, Mr. D'Abreu, I think that was very wise what you said. Counseling can come from somebody, whether it be your pastor, whether it be the police officer, a good friend, the neighbor, whoever is able to get through to that individual who is experiencing a mental health challenge. I think that's great. But then also, I want to ask you this too. What if a parent has a child that is resistant to a form of, to any type of help? What's the next step?
Oh, you just sent me to a place that I haven't been for a while. You know, my grandma would have said, "Go outside and get that switch," you know. But uh, sometimes that's a good question. I as a person that works with students and families quite a bit, the first thing I do is build trust with not only the student but with the family, and so that way, and even some of the students that have been extremely hard to get to and have resisted, I've been blessed and fortunate to get through. And all I've done is told them that, you know, if you're in this program, I'm going to treat you like you're my own. I'm not going to treat you like Mr. D'Abreu, the doctor. I'm not going to treat you like Mr. D'Abreu, the counselor, or none of that. You know, I'm going to treat you like you're mine. And if you can't deal with that, unfortunately, you're probably in the wrong program, you know, because I try to keep it, you know, transparent and offer the reasons why it's going to be in that student's best interest to at least take a listen to what I have to say. I'm not there to hurt you. I'm only there to give you good counsel and good information. And you know, it's kind of like here's the dinner table. I'm going to set the main course out here. I'm going to set the dessert out here. I'm going to serve, you know, the salad, all of it. And if you choose to eat, you choose to eat, you know, but we know that the salad is going to be good for you. You know, you're going to love the dessert. So you might as well, you know, go ahead and listen to it and let's get down to business.
And I just want to add to that, you know, resistance to change can come from anybody. It can come from an adult, it can come from a child. And I think that is really important, like you said, that if a parent is dealing with a child that is resistance, to get to connect them with somebody that they can build trust and establish a relationship. Relationship building is very, very important, and it's key in helping somebody, you know, to reach their potential or to overcome an issue. I just really think that is just very important.
Absolutely. It boils down to meeting a person where they are. And
Yeah.
once you meet them where they are, and prime example, I was resistant to change as well. Guilty as charged. But guess what? If I'm going to meet my students where they are, I had to go get an Instagram account, TikTok. You know, I was doing Black Planet. You know what I'm saying? No, I figured I'd take you back with that one.
I know. I heard that in a minute.
So, but you know, again, my students are on these different platforms. So if I'm gonna, you know, meet you there, because again, even with those social media platforms, some things are expressed just based in the verbiage, in the text that's going on. So you can look at some of that text and you can kind of see where some of those issues may be as well. So as much as a lot of folks say social media is a bad place to be, it's only bad if you use it in a bad way.
Thank you.
You know, in a positive way, and as a resource, it's a wonderful tool.
Yeah, and then also too, I want to add to that too, because I know we talked about, you know, what if a child is resistant to change, but then I also want to add to if adult is resistant to change, I think the first thing that you should do is just be honest with your situation, you know, because a lot of times we can be embarrassed about our situation and we try to cover up things. But the first step, you know, if you want to change your situation, you have to be honest about what's going on. And then how we talked about earlier, you know, you have a choice. You know, tomorrow is a new day. So you have a choice whether, you know, you're going to continue to, you know, be in the situation that you don't like or that you're uncomfortable in, or if you're going to step out on faith and walk in your purpose. I think that, you know, you have to, you know, step out there and make things happen. And, you know, there's a African proverb that basically says, supposing doesn't fill the grain basket if doesn't fill the larder. And I think that's real, you know, because you know, so I think that people have to, you know, take chances to walk in your purpose, you know, come up with a plan and do what you have to do. And I just want to ask this question too. We actually, hold on, let me go and ask this question for, because a listener said, had another question. Oh, what are some of the tell signs a person should seek mental help?
Well, in my opinion, I believe that if the person is doing self-checks, if the person is observing someone else, like a student or a child, whenever, and like you said earlier, sometimes things can be taken out of context. But if you notice that the student, the child, even the adult, if they're doing things that are out of character, that they don't normally do, you know, I can see if it happens one time, you know, but then if it happens, you know, maybe twice, and it becomes a pattern, then I would definitely look into asking the question, and then once the question is asked, depending on the response, look towards getting some resources to assist that person.
Keyword pattern, like you said, because sometimes, you know, an incident can be an isolated incident. And if that incident is isolated, don't blow it up and say, oh, my child or needs mental health, when it's just an isolated incident. I think the key term that you said is pattern. Okay, so I just have 2 more questions for you. Any advice for someone who is just out there that just at their wits' end?
Again, don't be afraid to ask for the help. So my position is, you know, if somebody asks me for some help or some assistance or some resources or something like that, and if I don't have it directly, I will point them in the right direction. I will find an answer to assist you one way or the other, but we'll get you some help.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share and your followings?
I don't, but what I would like to do is, again, mention where I work, which is NCADD. It's National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. And within there, and even when I first started working there, I kind of had a skewed view of what they do, what we do. Once I started working there, I realized that there are other programs that are within that organization that can assist. Number one, we have multiple coalitions that we work with that provide different services to the community. Some of those are faith-based, some of those are social work, some of those are through social justice. There are a lot of different ones. The programs that we have specifically, and the prevention man, he manages the STEPS program, which is Strong Teens Excelling in Prevention Services. Then we have Lauren Stovall, who runs, he's manager of Celebrating Families. There's Miss Latanya Felder, who is managing the Healthy Zone program. And then we have, well, myself, I'm LSS program manager, which is Life Support Services. Through those, we have a lot of resources. We've got a recording studio in the office where we can, you know, where we're creating PSAs. We have partnerships with other resources doing PSAs and prevention activities. Again, prevention is to assist with, you know, mental health. You know, I deal with mental health, suicide, and substance use disorders. And we all have our own niche in what we do. Finally, on December 17th, again, December 17th, at our office, we're going to have a community event. And again, the LSS program is partnering with the Disability Network of Wayne County. And we're going to be hosting a giveaway. And again, for that giveaway, we're going to be giving away light bulbs from DTE we partnered with. We're going to give away food resources, and we're going to give away PPE and some other incentives, as well as some program information about the different programs that we have available. So and it's all free of charge. So come on out. We're inviting the community to come on out and take advantage, because some of that food may address some mental health issues, because some people during this pandemic are like, wow, you know, I lost my job. I don't have any way to get food. You know, what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? So again, this is an opportunity to take a little bit of that stress, that mental stress off an individual in the community.
Absolutely. And I think, thank you for sharing that information. I really think that, you know, with mental health, just because of sometimes the negative history of it, or just the negative reactions, we may have to start celebrating, you know, it a little bit more. And I think that the more people engage in these types of activities, that'll make them see that it's okay, you know, to just like you go, as Prevention Man said earlier, that mental health should be treated like your physical health. You know, you get your physical checkups, get your mental checkups. So, so thank you. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know what I didn't do? I'm sorry. I talked about that event on the 17th of December, but what I didn't do is mention the time. So the time is 11 a.m. and it's going to go till about 2 or 3, or until we run out of supplies. We are focusing, and we've targeted to service 200 people or more. So that's, you know, the time. The address is 2400 East McNichols, or East 6 Mile, which is about, well, it's at Goddard, actually, 6 Mile and Goddard. So again, 2400 East McNichols or East 6 Mile, from 11 to 2, or until, you know, the supplies and things run out. It's going to be on a first come, first served basis. And again, those of you who want to meet celebrities, go on out and meet the prevention man, and meet Lauren. And of course, if Miss Pert and Miss Carr want to come on out, you know, meet them too. Superstars of Facebook Live.
Hey. So thank you so much, Karl, for coming on. You have given like such a lot of information. You've given a lot of information. Dr. Pert, thank you for your input. You know, Dr. Pert is always pushing, you know, to go a little bit further, and it's well needed. So thank you. So in closing, parents, champion parents out there, first I want to thank the viewers for tuning in. Thank you for your continued support. Please continue to, you know, provide feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know some topics that you would like to hear us talk about, because it's funny. I want to thank Mr. McGee. If you still on, Mr. McGee, thank you. Because last week he suggested that we cover mental health, and boom, there it is. We listen. So we like to listen. So just give us some ideas. Let us know what you want to talk about. I think during this month of December, we'll probably talk about mental health again. So anyway, I just wanted to just say that, you know, you could teach your children to turn their weaknesses into their strengths. So we're talking about mental health. And, you know, as Dr. Pert said earlier, all temper tantrums are not bad. Sometimes we just have to learn how to listen. If a child exhibits anger or high emotions about personal issues, that energy can be redirected into skill building. This will allow the child to use their weaknesses to become their strength. I know we hear that sometimes as adults. Let your weaknesses feed your strengths. You never know what can come out of all of this. And so just redirecting and cultivating the strengths. You know, sometimes punishment is what we look to. And you see, I say it with energy because I'm ready to punish my kids. What you do, you know, you're done. But no, we have to like kind of turn everything around, and discipline. You know, discipline is good because it teaches skills and you know, how to survive and all that good stuff. So parents, next time your children are bouncing off the walls, don't worry about it. Again, allow those weaknesses to feed your strengths. And we just like to thank you at this time. Thank you, viewers. Remember, continue to be safe. Pay attention to the CDC guidelines. Wear your mask, because this pandemic is acting up again. You know, I pray for those of you all who are experiencing something, those of you all who have lost someone, and I'm not going to be long-winded, but I pray for everything that everyone is going through. Please listen to what Mr. Karl and Dr. Pert has told you. If you feel that you need some type of help, don't be afraid to seek help. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. Treat your mental health, in the words of the prevention man. Treat your mental health like your physical health. Go get checked out. And pay attention to our social media. We're always updating our website. And until next time, we love you guys. Thank you so much. Peace.
See you later.
Ooh, that was long-winded.